Good evening, and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. We're going to come to you again tonight from Soluble in an attempt to keep you informed. That's going to be the title of tonight's broadcast, Keeping You Informed, in the hopes of, at the end of the day, finding a more better political environment for America. You know, as I've emphasized and as I've spoken on, we have a 90-something percentile when it comes to voting in the Democratic Party. And, you know, oftentimes, even though we have that, we're complaining that, you know, we have very little to show for it. So, you know, in keeping you informed in an attempt to never go back to Trumpism or never go back to a time where when we don't vote, that we get something like that. And, you know, as I've stated, the time is not for complaining now, finger pointing. Unless we vote, unless we surely rock the vote with our 90-something percentile, and there's an attempt by the other party, the opposing party or whatever, to have a successful steal of that, or to have a successful way of changing that vote from the will of the 90-something percentile African-American voters. Because, you know, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. You know, Republicans know that when we turn out, we put Democrats over the top each and every time. And they're counting on you not to turn out. So, you know, our goal here is to keep you informed. You know, it's every so often, you know, 2, 4, 6 years that we have these votes to come up. And in the meantime, in between time, our goal is to, you know, keep you informed as to the what's going on, to try to simplify it, you know, to try to take it out of Harvard and Yale terms, if you will, so that you can have a better understanding of where things are going and why. You know, going into this new year, we're going to attempt to open up the invite window because, you know, we've never claimed to have all the answers. And, you know, our firm belief here at Soluble is that if you're going to debate towards a solution for a more perfect union, then, you know, we need to have somewhat of a brainstorm, you know, invite like-minded Democrats on, invite the opposing Republican electorate on, you know, and that's what this serious discussion looks like, you know, opposing views, opposing opinions, and then hopefully we can meet somewhere in the middle, you know, and that's American democracy. So we're going to try to open up the invite button tonight. We don't know if or how many listeners that we have, but, you know, it's a first time thing. I have my beautiful wife. She's on standby to assist me if anything goes wrong. So just bear with me. We're going to attempt to open up the invite window. And, you know, if someone, you know, comes on at any given time during the podcast, they're welcome to, you know, join us, you know, but we're going to, you know, tinker with this thing as a first time experiment to see how it actually works. So bear with us here. Send this link to your guest. You may, what is it? You may also want to share on. Okay, so what should I do? What should we do there? They know you there. Don't worry about it. Just come on. I already told them. You want to get in the share? Okay, you click on that link. You know, like you click on the link. Send this link to your guest. It says,
It's taking us somewhere else. What that is.
make sure you have the following before the broadcast. It was giving us instructions about make sure you have the following before the broadcast. Go back there again. Let me see if I can read it.
Which one?
Click on the link up there. Click on it again. It says before the broadcast. Yeah, it says before the broadcast, make sure you have the following: a laptop or desktop with a webcam and mic, a recent version of Chrome or Firefox, a strong internet connection, just like Skype. You must have a strong internet connection for it to work well if possible. Earbuds or headphones. If you don't have a setup, guest instruction: how do I invite guests to my stream? And stream. How do I? Okay, so what do I click on that? It says how do I invite? StreamYard allows you to easily invite guests to participate live stream. They instantly can join from the supported device and share their camera, mic, screen, and videos from any supported device. What that mean? Their supported device? Okay, from any supported device. Okay, so I'm gonna click watch on YouTube and see what happens. Okay, hit play. No.
Just like try to do it right now.
Okay, how do I go back to my stream then? That circle.
Go right there when it say StreamYard. Yeah, get out of there.
Okay, forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. We had a technical difficulty there. Trying to go and open up the invite window for the first time. We're going to have to consult with our technicians who help us set up the podcast. It seems like, would you agree?
Yes.
And then we're going to have to get back with you at a later time. Okay, keep moving right along. We're keeping you informed. In the meantime, you're welcome to comment on we're going to open up the comment. So if you're there listening, you're welcome to comment, because as I said, our goal here at Soluble is to create a better political environment with our party. We can't control the other side. We welcome debate from the other side. If Republicans have a great bill, if they have something good for the country, we're going to welcome it. We're going to champion it. We're going to encourage it. Because at the end of the day, when you're trying to find a more perfect political union in the country, then you have to consider all opposing views. You have to, call a spade on its face. So if the Republicans have something, that's great for the American people, not just the 1%, millionaires and billionaires. Although we don't begrudge millionaires and billionaires for their hard work. They're staying up late at night to earn their degrees or what have you. We don't begrudge that, but we're looking for a situation in this country, trying to create an environment that helps everybody up, that gives everybody opportunity to have a hand up, to have a fair shake at the American dream, to be able to taste a piece of the pie, if not obtain the whole pie. And so here we are, Republicans and Democrats. How did we get here? You don't see the Democratic side, and this may sound biased, but you don't see the Democratic side nominating a candidate like the former president. His so unpresidential behavior, demeanor, a man who talks about grabbing women by their private parts just because he has money. We haven't seen nothing like that ever. And so, it was looked at from an opposing party view that, the Republicans had fell to a new low. That's actually what it was, because we saw what happened in the 4 years. I mean, don't get me wrong. The president has some good ideas. He accomplished some things. I'm not prepared to sit here and say that everything that came out of the Trump administration was bad. But the former president, was so unpresidential. He took the country to a new low. in our social environment, in our political discourse, and undermining our press, which we have freedom of the press, we have freedom of speech, and the president did everything in his power to seriously undermine it. I mean, you never heard of fake news. You never saw so many witch hunts that went after a president, but fake news the most. So it caused the American people to lose faith somewhat in the media, to question valid things that the media was printing or reporting. And so you haven't saw this from the Democratic Party with such a foul candidate that they put on the ticket and actually pushes for elected office, the highest office in the land. You don't see Democrats with suspect representative elects like Congressman Santos out of New York. You don't see it. So it's not, an inherent biasness that's there towards, all Republicans and everything they do. But we have to call this out on his face. We have to call it out on his face. Or we're going to be left behind. We're going to be left in the dust. And we have to be as good, as adamant when it comes to vocalizing it as Republicans are. You don't see this from the Democratic Party. So while it may seem like here it's soluble, we're dead set on attacking Republicans. That's not the case. But if it's there, we have to call it out there where it is. I mean, you have a situation here where they're finding classified material at a former Biden residence or former office that the vice president once occupied. Now, when this happened, the first thing that the Biden people did was they called the National Archives. They got in touch with the National Archives, and then they contacted the Justice Department. Went through all the necessary proper channels, procedures, to clear it up, to get to the bottom of it, to make sure that there was nothing compromised, that there was no secrets out there that could have been gathered by the enemy to compromise America's well-being. Stark contrast as far as the way that the Biden team handled it once these documents or materials were discovered versus the way the former President Trump has handled it. At first, he's in denial or he's being misled. We're going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt here. As corrupt as he may, have a tendency to be, we're going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt here. Some kind of way, somehow there were classified materials at Mar-a-Lago. Now, the proper authorities in Washington asked the Trump team, has all material been turned over? Could it have been something that was overlooked? Yes, it's possible. But, with the former president's track record, how he's just trampled all over our institutions and undermined them and called them out as being bad or evil or out to get him. He's taken institutions that have normally, historically, they don't take a political stance. They don't discuss political views. Your vote is your vote and my vote is my vote. They do not, they work hard not to politicize, these institutions, law enforcement agencies, oversight agencies. And along comes President Trump and totally begins to politicize. If there's a judge on the Supreme Court that disagrees with him, that's an Obama judge. You've never seen this before. This kind of finger pointing, this kind of political back and forths. And so at the end of the day, we want to get back to solid debate, talking about relevant issues that are going to be problem solving as far as the American people go. Because, first and foremost, that's what we're sending our leaders to Washington, D.C. to do, to make our lives better, keep America safe, keep America safeguarded. You know, the economy. That's part of making our lives better. And fair and balanced justice equaled out. Justice, liberty, for all, as stated in the pledge. So at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves why we're constantly with the Republican Party. It's constantly something like, what is going on here? Now, the House Ethics Committee has been gutted as soon as the Republicans took over and won the majority. Then the House Ethics Committee was gutted. It's gone. But George Santos remains. Now think about that for a few seconds. The House Ethics Committee, which ethics having to do with moral principles, kind of being honest when no one is looking. The House Ethics Committee has been gutted. It's gone. It's history. But George Santos remains. How can this be good for the country? How can this be good for the country? And the new speaker, Speaker McCarthy, is saying that when it comes to the George Santos situation, he quietly, humbly says, it's up to the voters. You don't have an opinion one way or another. And this is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. The Republicans only find a problem when it's the opposing party. We as Democrats, we have to rise above that, and we have to call it out on its face wherever we see it, regardless of political strife. And so when the Republicans are doing it, we have to hit back hard to call them out and make sure that we don't forget when it comes election time. That's first and foremost. Make sure that we don't forget, because as I've said, it's constantly what is going on here? What is going on here? House ethics gone. Senator Santos remains. All along, the campaign trail, all last year leading up to the midterm, the border's a mess. Immigration. The Democrats are pro-immigration. They're flooding the country. They're leaving the border wide open. And the first bill that's drafted out of the gate is a bill that defunds the IRS. If this is the case, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm talking to Republican voters specifically here, if this is the case, that leading up to the midterms, it was all about the border, and now right out of the gate we have this bill that slashes funding for the IRS, then that has to tell you that is there really a serious crisis on the border? How serious is this crisis? How serious should we take this? How serious should we take the Republicans at their word that the country is being overran and we're in danger of being overran? It just doesn't add up. You would think that one intelligent voter would think that, okay, the Republicans are in the House now. They're in control. As soon as the session opens and a speaker sworn in, they're going to come out right out of the gate, blazing fast. Excuse me. They're going to come out of the gate blazing fast on immigration. Guns blazing, balls to the wall, full speed ahead on immigration. So what do we have here? It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. 1 and 1 is 2. We know this, but this doesn't add up. This just doesn't add up, and we're looking forward to, in the future, here in the coming days, weeks, when we get our invite information straight and get it sound as it should be, and we're able to open up. We welcome healthy discussion, healthy debate. For someone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, for someone to come on and tell us how this can be. But our position here at Soluble for the American voter is how serious, just how serious can the border crisis be? Is there a crisis there of said magnitude from conservative politicians? If the first bill that they're drafting out of the gate is to stymie the IRS, to set the IRS back, don't be fooled. This is fear mongering, scare tactics. You have to what else could it be? If immigration is all the rage before the elections, before the midterms, and now the first what else can it be? It is the nation's problem. It is a threat to national security and a threat to America's existence. Does it lie within the IRS? Or does it lie at the border, at the southern border? Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. And this is what the Republicans are constantly doing. They're preaching one thing, but they practice something totally different. This first bill that's drafted, and we know it's going to face the veto pen if it makes it out of the Senate, where we have the majority. Now, between the Senate majority and a Democrat occupying the Oval Office, this is our safety net to my Democratic voters. Now, we see what losing power in 1/3 of government. We see now the wheels of disruption. This is what the wheels of disruption that turn look like. Phony investigations, slashing funding. And this is, we live in a system of paying taxes. No one loves it. No one loves it. But, it serves the public good. It does serve the public good. Now, because Republicans are firmly entrenched in the pockets of the wealthy 1%, they're going to say that it's a money grab. That's just like a tax and spend liberal. To go after the wealthy and then take the money and give handouts, in the form of entitlements, in the form of student loan forgiveness. Think about it. Don't be fooled. That accusation, assertion, if you will, is only valid if the 1% are paying their fair share. Because, according to the facts, according to the IRS, they're underfunded. They've been underfunded by 20% for a decade. They're dealing with backlog, staffing shortages, and antiquated equipment. Then what? The estimated loss because of all this, staffing shortages, antiquated equipment, and the like, the estimated loss for 2021, according to the IRS, was $1 trillion. And this is mostly coming from, wealthy corporations and business owners who are able to cheat, who are able to duck and dodge in the system. That's where it comes from. And so the first bill that's drafted by Republicans is, this bill here to protect the wealthy 1%. A money grab, nothing can be further than the truth. Now, what is the problem with paying your fair share? What is the problem? You can only write off so much. And then, you have to begin to pay up from there. So, you look at your deductions, you look at your write-offs, you look at your losses, and you report them fairly. What is the problem here? And so, you, the American voter, has to ask yourself, we've given up 1/3 of government to the Republicans. We lost it in the midterms. Okay, how does this begin to make our lives better? You have it's been well documented here at Soluble. We've just stated what the first bill was. Okay, that first bill goes over immigration, which was all the rage before the midterm. Climate change. California's flooding right now. They're being washed away. The economy, rising prices. Doing everything we can to make sure that if there is another pandemic, that we're safe here at home. Trying to deal with renewable energies, clean energy. But the order of importance, as far as all that is concerned, California's being washed away. We're still trying to work out our supply chain snarls. We do have to get spending under control. But the top priority for the incoming majority from the right is to go after the IRS. So, there you have it. Republican voters, you have to ask yourself, is this 1% of millionaires, billionaires, and what have you, what are they going to do for you once the Republicans do whatever they do for them? What are they going to do for you? Because, the Republicans are not winning office with 1% of the vote. They're not winning office with 1% of the vote, or the 1% of the wealthy. They're not winning office that way. It's not enough of them. So you, Joe taxpayer, average Joe American worker, Republican, you're putting them over the top. Now they're over the top. They're in. And their first order of business is to protect the wealthy. And who knows when they'll get around to you and dealing with the everyday issues that you have in the form of high prescription drug costs, gas prices, a livable wage. When would they debate that? They rush to aid the 1%, the millionaires and billionaires. When would they negotiate, a livable wage for the average Joe taxpaying Republican that goes to work every day and works a 9 to 5? When will your turn come? You have to ask yourself that question, because they have the majority now in the House, and we see where their priority lies. Not in the voting group, the voting bloc that got them over the top. No, they abandoned you. They forgot about you. If you live down on the southern border right now, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, right now you're on your own, because we don't see it. We don't see the same enthusiasm. So, it is what it is. As I said, it can seem as if, the podcast Soluble, a Republican won't stand a chance going into debate on that podcast. Being a guest, that is invited on that podcast, that's nothing can be further than the truth. But we have to call it out as we see it. Where is the Democrat that has lied, or shall we say embellished, like Representative-elect Santos? Where is the Democrat that is equivalent to that? Where is the Democrat that is in the Oval Office, smoozing with Putin, asking openly for bribes on the phone with foreign allies? Where is the Democrat that's doing it? Then we can debate it. We can debate what that fate should be. We've already dealt with the former president. We gave him his fate. We gave him the boot after 4 years. We gave him the boot. See you, wouldn't want to be you. He couldn't get another 4 years. So, if the Republicans can show us the Democrat, not some reach out in the dark accusation, some QAnon theory, or something that QAnon is spewing. Give us facts. Give us actual facts. And, based on, how they're somewhat lukewarm, accepting of Santos, it's a hard thing to do. But we welcome the debate. We welcome the smackdown, if you will, of any Democratic candidate, office holder that so blatantly lies, shows any biasness, if you will, corruption, if you will, lack of ethics when it comes to working across the aisle. We'll call them out. We'll bring them to the forefront. We'll rake them over the coals. And we will, if they don't get their act together, and if it's recommended by the heads of the party, we will vote them out. We're waiting. We're watching. So, as I said, being biased towards Republicans, that's not the case here. But, at the end of the day, all we can say is to the opposing voter, to the opposing party, to the opposing politician, give us the candidate, give us the elected official who is doing these things that don't benefit America or that doesn't benefit Americans for that matter. And we'll get to the bottom of it. So moving right along, we've gave you the sticking points of the 90-something percentile that we have locked in when it comes to the African American voter for the Democratic Party. We know the sticking point. We know the agony of the things that we don't appreciate or we don't like that is embraced by the Democratic Party. And, we don't have to agree on everything. That's the beautiful thing about American politics and democracy. We don't have to agree on everything. Right now, the Democratic Party is one big tent for everybody of every race, color, creed, excuse me, sexual orientation. They're one big tent for everybody having the same opportunity, the same freedoms, and the same protections as all other as everybody, not just one group of people over another group of people, one race over another race. The playing field is level, and there's the American dream. Now, go get it. That's the Democratic Party's approach. That's their takeoff. And so we don't have to agree on everything. We understand. We feel your pain. We agonize. Here it's soluble. But as I said, we know America's position. When it comes to gender politics, or anything having to do with marriage equality, the LGBTQ community. We went over it last night. The American government, the American position is that you can't legislate morals. So now the compass spins. So now the moral compass spins. And where it stops, nobody knows. But one thing that we do know for sure, that as the moral compass spins, it doesn't reflect Democrat or Republican thinking. It's the American way. Plain and simple. So, to that 90-something percentile of African American voters that we have on lock, or that we have seriously entrenched in the Democratic corner. Think about this, before you defect. The moral compass spins, and the only thing that you're basically offered on the other side is bigotry, hate, divisiveness, lies. If the moral compass doesn't spin, where's the legislation? Where's the bills? Where is the staunch opposition? You won't find it. You won't find it in neither party. So, in searching for the lesser of two evils, this is what you have. This is what you have because the moral compass spins. The Democrats are one big tent of acceptance for Americans of all stripes. Entitlements, over jobs is a no-no. That's our position here at Soluble. And that's what we'll champion until we get it changed. But as I said, a conservative, a Republican, started, the welfare program. And a true indeed, it was during the Great Depression. But who should own it? Which party should own it more? And gradually phasing it out. Because that's our position here at Soluble. Should welfare entitlement programs in the form of welfare and food stamps, should it be gradually phased out? Maybe maybe not so much, the food vouchers or the EBT cards. But that's the question that we're asking to our fellow Democratic voters. If you agree, then fine. If you don't, that's why we're asking the question. We're looking for a think tank here, if you will, a well-rounded approach to eventually phase it out, because it's a program that writes a check, cuts a check to individuals for irresponsible behavior. Nothing can be more absurd. Nothing can be have a more negative effect on society than something like this. So it's always going to be Soluble's position that we're looking for work over entitlements. Work over entitlements. And we've come a long way since the Great Depression. And, from that improvement, from the Great Depression to now, it's been an improvement. There are jobs everywhere. And ironically, the program that FDR started in the form of welfare has gotten worse. Where the economy has gotten better, you would think that, the entitlement program in the form of welfare and food stamps would have gotten better also. And not, spun out of control with fraud, rewarding irresponsible behavior. But that's where we're at. It was a program started for a good reason in desperate times. But as I said, times have gotten better and the program has gotten worse. And it's made society. It's made us as a society as a whole. It's made us worse. It's made us worse. And it affects all of us as Americans. It's a pocketbook issue to Joe taxpayer. It's a neighborhood issue for the elderly, for the working class Negro in America. It's a crime issue. So, the negative effects are there, and so what more can I say? The program has gotten worse. And where do we go from here? Like minds, should get together. That's our position here at Soluble. Entitlements, gradually phased out. Here we are in the year of our Lord 2023. The sooner the better. Can we phase it out in 10 years? That's the question that we're posing tonight to our listeners, to that 90%, to show that there's no reason to defect, because we're going to work on it and we're going to work it out. Now, what we're proposing here at Soluble tonight, and fresh out of the new year, should we phase it out? Can we phase it out in 10 years? And the entitlement program in the form of welfare, something that is a major sticking point to the 90-something% of African-American voters in the Democratic Party who believe, who may have good reason to believe that it is championed by the Democratic Party. So before we lose you, we need to bring it up for discussion. and find a way to get rid of it. And this is not a snatch the rug out from under the participants approach, if you will. This is a gradual phase out. This, will allow Americans a lot of time to get their act together, to begin to put more thinking and planning into starting a family, if you will. 10 years is a good long time to get it together and to get our politicians to working on, hopefully drafting legislation. Let it come from the Democratic side. It can only increase our numbers. It would be good for the base if we can get this started and then, get it over the top by communicating with our leaders, our elected officials, and letting them know how we feel about it. As I said, you're voting as a group, as a race. You're voting 90-something% in a political party, which in America we have 3. You're throwing 90% of your population, your numbers, behind one party. You have to get more. You have to get more. And that's where we're at tonight in the new year. What does it take to, have our voices heard after the vote? The vote itself is just part of having our voices heard. But, there is another process in place there. There's another avenue to travel if, we feel like, okay, the election is over, we've put them in place, and now it seems as if nothing is getting done. It seems as if they're not fighting for it hard enough. And that's what we need. More than just hear it soluble. More than just hear it soluble. We need to be vocal about the things that we believe in. And these are things that, at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, are they not just things that we champion and believe in, but are they good for America heading into the future? And the future is our children. And, whether we're here or not in the future, we owe it, as stewards right now, in this day and time, to prepare our next generations for a better future. So we all have to get involved. We all have to get involved, stay involved, because this is where true power lies. This is where true power lies, in the vote. Let it sink in. We don't have to pursue it as if it is the way of equality in America. True equality. The finish line, getting over the finish line of equality. The shortest route is the vote. Make no mistake about it. And so, that's why we're here. We're going to champion to the fullest extent our First Amendment rights and, vocalize to the people, whatever it takes, whatever we have to do, what we need to do to keep our political discourse civil and move America along in the right direction that, points towards that more perfect union, that shiny city on a hill, if you will. And, in order for that to happen, there must be discussion. There must be debate. Lest, we take America back to a place in time that we have long since left, that we've long since gone from. And that's where, that's what Democratic voters have to understand. And the reason why this 90-something percentile that we have on lock in the Democratic Party is so important. This cause, we have to champion, and we have to keep championing, because that's what is going on the other side. From the year 1864, when the arms were laid down, the Confederate ideology, the Southern heritage ideology, moved to Capitol Hill, and that's where it still resides today. So it's a cause, and right or wrong, no man can fault one for championing his or her cause. And that's what's going on. The Confederates, if you will, in the form of Republicans, have taken the ideology of states' rights and everything it stands for. Everything, not some things. Nothing has been compromised, and that's why it's the serious cause that they champion. But they've taken everything that Southern ideology stands for, and they've taken it off the battlefields of Dixie, off the battlefields of the South, and they laid down their arms. They surrendered because there was no more blood left to spill. The bodies were expended. So they laid down their arms and they took the fight to Capitol Hill and put it on pen and paper in the forms of bills and legislation. Now, that has caused a lot of setbacks in the African American community. So, all the more reason now that you see the importance of championing the cause. Just as Southern Confederates, they champion their cause and they're so passionate about it that they said, okay, we've lost on the battlefield. We'll take it to Capitol Hill and we'll continue to fight there. That's where we're at. We must champion the cause of voter rights, getting our numbers out each and every time there's an election. It's the only way to move past this. It's the only way to defeat it. And, bring our Republican counterparts and those in the Democratic Party that may be of the far left, the moderates, progressives, bring them all to the table for conversation that leads to solutions for political discourse, and it has a snowball effect that makes the lives of all Americans better. Makes the lives of all Americans better. And so, right now, because the Republicans are in 1/3, they control 1/3 wing of government. The president now, President Biden, is going to have to, he's going to have to use the veto pen, and rightfully so. If this cut to the IRS is going to add to the deficit, you have $1 trillion, of estimated loss for 2021. $1 trillion. That's nothing to sneeze at. That could have been collected in the form of internal revenue. And so, in order to beef up enforcement for legit tax cheats, if you listen to the Republicans, they're always going to come with the scare tactic. They're always going to come with the scare tactic because they don't want big government. They want to be able to cheat. They want to be able to sweep things up under the rug and, live along the outer bounds of the Constitution, the amendments, the Bill of Rights. They want to be barely on the outside where, you can't hardly notice it. It's like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So, if they get caught, they can bring that other foot back in. But, there's a reason that the Republicans are not for big government. There's a reason that they want to slash the funding for the IRS. And it's not, because it benefits America for them to slash the funding. This is not good for America. This is only good for their donors. They're the ones who vote for them. The lobbyists, the campaign contributors. This is who this bill is good for. Not you, the average Joe taxpaying Republican. It's not for you. And so it shows you where their mind state is at right out of the gate for the wealthy, which you've been told the whole time. But if you listen to Republicans tell it, they're going to lead you to believe that, oh no, nothing can be further than the truth. This is just tax and spend liberals running smear campaigns. But you see it yourself. But the Republicans are counting on you, Republican voters, to forget, to be less than intelligent as to what's going on. But you see it right before your eyes because we here at Soluble is bringing it to your attention. And you can't deny it. You can't deny it. The border's a mess, and the first bill out of the new majority is to slash funding for the IRS. And 1 and 1 is 2. Or in this case, it may be 3. So, as I said, Is there really a border crisis when we see the bills right out of the gate that the Republican Party is championing? And so it's our job here to keep you informed. To keep you informed. Um, and to that 90 something percentile, last but not least, there's between the two parties. There's what do you have to defect to? Here you have the Republican Party. We've lost, anywhere from 3 to 5% this last time around in the election. What do you have to defect to? There's no moral high road on the Republican side because they've taken the same position as the Democrats. And it's the American position in general. When it comes to legislating morals, their position is that you can't do it. So what do you have to defect to? Entitlements, in the forms of welfare, was started, by Republicans, albeit for a good reason. But as I said, the economy has gotten better and the program has gotten worse. So, we ask you to think about it as we attempt to keep you informed. And, don't be fooled. Don't have the wool pulled over your eyes. The Republicans are getting ready to, set us up with a lot of investigations. Is it a bridge to nowhere? Is it another Benghazi? Is it another Whitewater? The Rose Law Firm? And we saw, we're asking all of Joe Public, especially Democratic voters who think about defecting or are slacking and not voting in the next election. What are they doing here? What are they doing? You have to see that if the rubber doesn't meet the road when it comes to what's best for us as Americans, then we have to use the power of the vote. We have to use the power of the vote because the investigations are biased. They're selective. They're partisan. And they serve no purpose in making us safer, making us more financially secure, making us more healthier, making our living spaces more vibrant, making our recreational spaces more enjoyable. They serve no purpose in none of these investigations. No purpose. And as I said, they're one-sided. So you have to ask yourself, how much of this is for love of country versus how much of it is for love of control of power? That's going to do it tonight for us here at Soluble. In closing, we're going to say thank you for joining us. Plain and simple. We look forward to the real facts, the real things that's going on in America, and killing the notion that the idea of fake news, that everything is false, conspiracies, misinformation, where you really don't know what to believe. That's what our purpose here at Soluble is, and that's what we will strive tirelessly to continue to do. Bring you facts, keep you updated on all the political happenings. Because at the end of the day, the 90 percentile of African American voters, our power, our source of power, and the way to take that power and project it into everyday American life to end the struggle lies in being politically informed and then casting your vote. Casting your vote. And that's what we have. We have the Democratic Party. That's a party of inclusion. Some may say to a fault based on your religious beliefs. And then we have the Republican Party, a party of exclusion. And one of the conditions to be included in this party is you have to have a lot of money. You have to have a lot of money. And they'll sell their soul. They can be bought and sold easily. You see what has happened with the speakership. How Kevin McCarthy has sold his soul out. for the good of America or for control, the party of control, promoting and trying to sustain a ideology, a way of life that the modern world has moved well beyond, well beyond. So, with that being said, that's our whole purpose for being here, is to keep you informed, to keep you on your political toes, if you will. So you can't be confused, you can't be misinformed or misled. Everything is out in the open, and it's up for debate and it's up for discussion. So thank you for joining us tonight. We look forward to continuing, our political discussions. We hope to work on our invite option. Excuse me. Work on our invite option, to bring in like-minded views, opposing points of view, because at the end of the day, if it's soluble, we're trying to find a political solution. Political civil discourse is our goal and purpose. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to continuing the discussion in the coming days. This is Soluble signing off, and we thank you. God bless and good night.